Good evening, everybody. This is Pete Morris with ComancheZOOM for June 10th. On the screen is what we're going to be talking about tonight. We're having the all-group meeting, AGM, tonight, or starting it, put it that way. It's going to continue until it gets concluded by the election in August, but we're getting it going tonight. There is a lot of information that we need to get across, which is why we're doing it here on the Zoom, to be able to talk to everybody at once. And then we're going to go on from that to talk about some of the other things that are going on with the Comanches, all the different projects we're working on, stuff like that. We have some great people coming in to provide information for us. And with that, I'm going to end up with stopping the share here, and we'll go to the usual who you are, where you are, and what you fly. So key your mic and step in.
Hank Spellman, 1959 PA 24250, Lincoln, Illinois, Kilo Alpha Alpha Alpha, the first one in the list.
I'm Pete Morris out in Connecticut. I fly also a 250 in 1963, and I just got back from riding Southwest to Seattle and back. So I got a tour of the country from 35,000 feet. CJ, I just muted you by mistake.
CJ Stumpf from Vermont, although I'm about to go down and get the 180 from Florida. Fly the 260B sometimes out of Westerly, Rhode Island, and happy to see y'all. Hop into any quiet moment and say who you are, where you are, and what you fly.
Hello, my name's Fred Lawley. I'm on the left coast, fly out of Livermore, PA 30 1966 with the Turbo Miller 200 R-Stol, most of the Miller mods, and I'm curious about VGs on the R-Stol at some point if somebody's ever played with that.
Yes, so talk to Mark Sullivan, also on the left coast, and I think he has got what you're looking for. I know he's got VGs on his twin, not a Miller, but it is a Turbo PA 30.
Do you know if he has the R-Stol kit on it?
That I don't know. Just know that he's got the VGs, although Bob Ferris just popped into the room. Bob, do you know of anybody who's got the R-Stol as well as vortex generators on the twin Comanche? And Bob, you're probably still muted because everybody joins muted. And Fred, good to see you.
Good to see you and everyone. Thank you.
Well, totally put Bob on the spot. And did I just see Ray Fay climb in from Wisconsin?
Yeah, Ray is there. He just wasn't paying attention. That got him.
There. No, I'm here. I was trying to figure out how to unmute.
Excellent. And you did it.
I did it. Trying to eat a sandwich and do this at the same time. I wonder how they do it in Washington, D.C.
They never open their mouths.
Yeah, right. Anyway, I'm Madison, Wisconsin. I fly a 260B, and I love it like we all do.
Good to see you, Ray. And got some good news as far as we look forward to seeing you at Oshkosh since you're practically on the field. And
Yep.
They're trying to work with us this year. It's they've really been given pretty strict direction and vintage to just first come first serve. So we've got a whole passel of Comanches that are going to try to get there Friday beforehand.
Oh, wow.
And yep, create a block. So good to see you, sir.
Thank you.
And anybody else jump into any quiet moment, say who you are, where you are, and what you fly.
I'm Mike Jackson. Go ahead, Bill.
Sorry. Okay, Bill Jackson. I live in Virginia Beach, former PA 30 1968 pilot. And these days I fly a Harley Davidson. And I'm the past president of ICS way back in the early 90s.
Outstanding. I have to say the Comanche for the transition from the Comanche to the Hog. What would you say about that?
They both offer freedom within certain limits.
Now you're talking. I like your attitude, sir. Thank you for being here with us. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Mike Ellis. I'm the filling between Hank Spillman and Ray Fay. I'm in Moline, or near Moline anyway. Fly a 250.
Mike, good to see you. We'll be
Yep.
seeing you at Oshkosh.
You know, I've never been, in the 14 years I've been a pilot, I've never gone up there.
We might need to give you an excuse.
Yeah, it's just one of, well, you know, the kids, hell, I still got a teenager at home, so telling the wife, hey, I'll be back in a week. Yeah, it wouldn't fly.
Bring the
Use the phrase.
teenager. Yeah, exactly. Believe it or not, we have been having the last, how many, 3-4 Comanche towns. We have had this huge group of young people. So just bring your teenager and we'll socialize them properly. Good guys. Everything from early teens to a bunch of Comanche drivers in their 20s and early 30s.
My problem would be entertaining them during the, for me, it'd be fine. For them, yeah.
Well, I'll tell
Yeah.
you my experience. I took my youngest son with me one time, and it happened to have the Voyager on display and flying that year, and he became an aeronautical engineer.
Huh.
Yeah, I don't know if mine would lift their nose out of their phone long enough to even notice an airplane. That's kind of the, yeah.
Excellent. Well, anybody else hop in any quiet moments? Say who you are, where you are, and what you fly.
Michael Saperton, Phoenix, Deer Valley Airport. I fly a 1963 PA 24250.
One of the very best years ever. Michael, great to have you. We may be relying upon you a little bit tonight for your Zoom expertise, so heads up.
ComancheZOOM friends. Hi, sorry,
Yeah.
Barbara just walked in.
Greetings to Barbara. Go ahead.
Ron Richmond. I started flying in 1946, working on Luscombs in exchange for lessons. And I'm still flying. I'm on my third airplane. I've had it for 49 years, a Comanche 400.
Ron, we are not worthy. We are so happy to have you with us.
Been to Oshkosh twice, but it was in a airline in a car.
Given the madness of coming into Oshkosh at certain times, you probably were exercising prudence and good judgment. But it's fun. Thanks for being with us, Ron.
You're welcome.
Bob Ferris, we see you. Welcome and thanks for being with us. I am still waiting for an answer from Daryl Poole on your question. And but just put a note out there to some other people, other twin drivers installing, saying, hey, we're trying to troubleshoot one install difficulty. So I'll keep you posted. You want to jump in and say who you are, where you are, and what you fly?
Well, good evening. Yes, I have a PA 30 and it's got a electro air electronic ignition now on both engines. Right now it's in the shop for its annual, so I don't have anything to report at the moment. But I'm out of North Carolina and Stuart, Florida. At the moment, sitting in Stuart, Florida. So looking forward to this evening.
Thanks for being here, Bob. Anybody else jump into any quiet moments, say who you are, where you are, and what you fly. But before you do that, I just want to acknowledge one thing. Bob Ferris is officially married to one of the coolest people. And because, among many other things, Sue got her ticket when?
It's a little over a year ago, or multi, but private before that.
Yep. So started flying. And I just want to mention this for all of you who have other halves. Sue started flying pretty late and is masterful, and seems to just still just look at that video and be like, wow, look at that quiet confidence and how cool everybody is. She's flying 4 people in an airplane. It's just awesome.
Well,
So
she's not within earshot, so I can tell you she's 74 years old, and she just started a year and a half ago to learn to fly. She had never had any experience at all, and the first thing she does is jump in a twin Comanche. So she's not afraid to tackle anything.
You know, if there's ever anything that's part of the Comanche spirit, it's something like that. It is wonderful. So my hat's off to you, or on, but you know what I mean. Thanks for being part of us.
Appreciate it.
Anybody else want to jump into any quiet moments? Say who you are, where you are, and what you fly.
Mike Newman from Western Pennsylvania, flying a 1959 Comanche 250.
It is good to have you here, Mike. Thanks for being part of the evening.
Oh yeah, I enjoy it. I look forward to it.
Great. Well, that's what we want to hear. Might not be so exciting. I want to just take a moment to recognize George Merriam. George, are you there? And can you unmute?
Okay, there you are. Hi.
Hi.
Everybody. Hi, CJ. I'm George Merriam, and I live in Western Massachusetts. I enjoyed the meetings every week. This one especially because I spent the last week in the hospital. It was a blood infection that just came up unexpectedly. So I've stopped flying for a week or so, and it looks to me like I'm going to have a antibiotic program for 4 weeks. So I'll be out of the air for a little bit. I fly a twin most of the time, a Beech King Air, but the rest of the time I got my multi-engine rating in a Comanche back in Georgetown. Well, near Georgetown, it was Tim's Air Park, Austin, Texas. That would have been about 1968.
Brilliant.
And, I was telling CJ earlier on, I flew John Butter owns an airplane that he's had, and he'll come up in just a little bit. He lives nearby, and he's been flying for 30 years in this airplane. And I flew it just before he bought it, and it was an airplane that I hadn't flown before, but did a charter in it at the local airport, and it was the only airplane that I'd ever flown that I could get into it and say I felt like I'd been here before. I went out to the Cape and then down to Long Island and back again, and thought this is the airplane to own if you ever to own an airplane. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to everybody tonight.
Well, we are extra appreciative of the opportunity to talk to you, George Merriam. So George, some of you may know, well, first of all, the endorsement of this is an airplane to own if you're ever going to own an airplane, coming from a 50-year CFII, not just a pilot, but somebody who's been a CFII, George, for 50 years. Is that really true?
No, as a matter of fact, I got my CFI right after my commercial. We didn't have to have instrument ratings, and I thought that was a big challenge, so I put that off a little bit. Never got my instrument rating until 75. Picked up the CFI II right after that. I'd like to recognize Mike Ellis. Mike, I watched your video on YouTube, and you do an outstanding job, and I enjoyed every minute of watching your YouTube video.
Well, thanks for that. My wife says they're boring, but you know.
No, they're very complete, and you can use them for instruction. Yeah, I was looking for flaws and couldn't find a one.
Oh, thanks. Thanks a lot.
Wow.
You're a master.
Okay, I am going to ask you, Mike, can you tell us about your YouTube channel so we can find it and stalk you?
Yeah, if you're really bored and you, because I don't like the editing part, so I don't edit anything but like unless we're in cruise, and then I'll chop the video and start it when I get close to the airport, because the editing just I don't enjoy it. I'm not artsy. I don't have this lead in, or it's not a very highly polished. But if you type in Piper Comanche 250, you'll see, or you can type in my name, Michael Ellis. You'll see one of my videos, and you can get to the channel from there. I started this 3-4 years ago, I think, at this point, and I did it to film my landings. And my wife is the one that said, well, why don't you put this up on YouTube? Her dad wanted to see it. He's over in Spain. So I did. And then it just kind of, now I've gotten myself in where I got to keep doing it. And, yeah.
Where I joined you was on warming up, because you were keeping your airplane nice and warm during the wintertime.
Yep.
And yeah, you were doing a hangar. I think it was a pre-flight. I think you were going to fly that same day, but it was all your preparation to keeping the airplane comfy warm.
Yeah.
And
Well,
in great condition during the. You're in Wisconsin, right?
I'm just south of Wisconsin. I'm on the Iowa-Illinois border, but I'm an hour from the Wisconsin border, hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I recognize that area. I went out to pick up an airplane in Minneapolis and ended up going NORAD and ended up in Clinton, Iowa.
Yeah.
It was great because I went 7600 in Chicago approach control. And so they knew where I was going. So I just made it with no radios. And so I wasn't there for maybe 10 minutes and the phone rang. And it was for some guy that was flying a Sundowner. And they said, yeah, this is Chicago, Illinois, Chicago approach control. So I answered the phone. He said, hey, you okay? That's Chicago for you, you know. Yeah, say hello to those guys and they're your friend, you know.
Yeah. Well, the only problem with Chicago is getting into the Class Bravo.
Oh, yeah.
It just, St. Louis, you can get in and out, you can skirt, but Chicago just will not let you. In order for me to go east, I have to go south to Kankakee.
Oh my goodness.
Before I can go, before I can get east.
Kennedy is friendlier than that. We go into Waukegan all the time in the King Air, but that's just straight across Lake Michigan, and
yep.
before you see ground, you better get your wheels down.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Chicago's a great place, and
Cool.
of course that's on the way up to Oshkosh. So you ought to make it this year.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
And I'm just gonna quickly got Matt Kirk trying to come in to join us, and I'm you guys probably all know Matt Kirk of Comanche Gear, and I'm just quickly sending him off a link. And Michael Sapperton, we really have to do our ComancheZOOM on how to ComancheZOOM, because
man, I could sure use.
We still have lots of people.
I want to do a Zoom meeting, and so I tried to put one together, and we need all the OJT we can get.
This is the wrong group to ask, since we've obviously all made it in here, but how many of you know of somebody who probably would appreciate, even amongst those of us who have gotten into the meeting, a ComancheZOOM on how to ComancheZOOM, or just a Zoom on how to Zoom?
The Zoom on how to Zoom. Oh man. And we've got.
I still need one.
Right here.
You guys are doing great. It's just little tips and tricks. You really are. I mean, there's little things. I mean,
CJ, it might be easier for somebody to record it on the computer and then pop it up on YouTube, and then share the link out to everybody via email. That would probably be the easiest thing to do.
I like it. We can do some of that. Plus, we can also talk about like what we do now, like where we're going through the the hangar flying. We're all like, just explain we're going to do this, who we are, where we are. what you're doing, just like
We know what you're saying.
muting and talking ETC. But there are a lot of fine points. But it's also like how to find the mute button. How do you adjust like the little things that make you look better or worse? And how do you put up a background? Like Michael, you were having that really, really killer panel behind you. That's super slick. So well, I just want to welcome two people that just that have popped in. One is I want to welcome with great appreciation because once we finally get organized, we're going to get really organized. And that is Margie Leggett. And she is one of a number of FAA FAST team reps who have been joining and helping. In fact, George Merriam is an FAA FAST team rep, but Margie Leggett in particular is Margie, are you the Washington State Airports Director?
I'm the executive director for the Washington Airport Management Association.
Gotcha. So everybody who loves Washington airports, hand to Margie, and you can also send your complaints there. But the other thing that Margie is going to do is some of you may have noticed that the notices don't always go out as far ahead as we would love it. And we have fantastic people who provide, safety information, fun information, operational information. And Margie has offered to help. And so we should be getting that organized and two good things will happen. One is there will be more advance notice. And the second really important thing is that Margie will be able to get the FAA, for those eligible, Margie will be able to make the Wings credit available. We've had Wings credit available before and it will be happening more often. Is that fair to say, Margie? Oops,
Yeah,
you muted.
That's right. I had to unmute. Sorry.
Good deal. And after this meeting, George, because we knew you were dealing with quite a fun thing there, a gentleman who is got the Bendix fuel servos, which is particularly useful, and nozzles, particularly useful for the twins, is going to be coming in next week. And so the high performance takeoffs and landings will be postponed just a little bit. And we'll be talking about some things in our fuel system. And he mentioned he's been getting a ton of calls from twin Comanche drivers. Anyways, because they're a manufacturer, in addition to possible Wings credit, anybody who's got an IA might want to bring that IA in because this will get them credit for attending that ComancheZOOM next week. So don't know if you've got enough time, Margie, but we'll be in touch after and I'll get all the info over to you. So, and then just want to welcome Matt Kirk. And Matt, you made it in. Welcome. And you'll need to unmute. Let's see. Matt, what I'm doing is I'm looking for, there you are. Yep, so you are, there you are.
Later. If you can see me, that's wonderful. I can see you, but I can't see me.
We can hear you, and that's the most important thing.
Well, how do I get this camera to wake up?
You should be introduced.
Matt, you got a laptop or a desktop?
Desktop.
Okay, is your camera plugged in?
Yes.
Unplug it and plug it back in. See if the system recognizes it. And then in the bottom left-hand corner, you're going to see of the Zoom call, you're going to see a stop video button with a little up arrow next to it. Click on that. Click on that up arrow.
It says a start video.
Yep.
There you go.
That's the button.
Yep. There's an up arrow next to it.
Yeah.
And click the up arrow. Do you see your camera check marked?
Yeah.
Okay, then click start video.
Well, there's a big red line through the camera icon.
Yeah, well,
It'll say that until you click it.
Yeah, you gotta click start video to start it.
Okay, well, how many times do I have to click it?
Just once.
Okay, well, it ain't working.
Oh. Is there a cover on your camera?
No, I could see myself before I joined this Zoom thing.
It should work.
Yeah, it should work then.
Yes, it oughter.
Okay, go to video settings. So in the little up arrow, there's a thing called video settings.
Yep.
And it's going to open a box. It's going to open another little thing.
Yep.
Okay, and then you should see your picture of yourself.
Nope.
You don't. Okay, then right below it says camera.
Yep.
Does it say the webcam?
Yep.
Okay, it doesn't say OBS virtual camera. It's your actual model.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, then I don't know. It should be working. Now I'm stumped.
Well, I saw my ugly face a half hour ago when I loaded this thing.
Well, you got that right, Matt. It is ugly.
Oh, hey there, Mr.
Only
Rick.
certain people can say
How
that.
you doing, Mr. Matt? Hey, we can hear you just fine.
Yep, Rick is right. Just a big welcome to Rick Mascari and a fellow 400 driver.
How you
To
doing?
Matt,
How you doing,
not to
CJ?
me. It's good to see you, sir.
You too.
And no, I'm still driving the lowly one. Well, not lowly because those 180s are awesome, but I'm
They
still
are
driving
awesome.
the other end of the sort of the spectrum there.
That's right. Matt, can you still hear us okay?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, good. Nobody wanted to see your face anyway.
I took a shower. I shaved. Now, what is this crap?
What time of the month is it? You know, you're not due for that yet, are
It's
you?
Thursday.
Yes, but did you get dressed?
Well, I'm lost on this. I mean, I've done what the suggestion is. Go to video settings. Nothing changes it. I'm gonna unplug the booger again.
Makes sense.
That's a good idea.
Well, the weird thing though, if it says the camera in the list on, when it says select a camera, it should be, it recognizes if it says the camera there, it recognizes the camera. For some reason, the
camera turned on, Matt?
And we used to always say you have to put another quarter in.
Yeah, there you go.
Frankly,
Yeah, the
if it's
mystery here
Windows
for
and
Matt
that
is just
happens,
that his camera was working because as he was coming in, he could see his own face.
Yeah.
And so the only thing I can think of is to exit the meeting and rejoin. And if we still can't see you at that point, we will have to troubleshoot afterwards so that the next time you come in, we can see you, but at least you can see us. And there's more of us than there are of you, even though you're more important. Because you're the one that keeps us all flying because of the gear.
Before we go too far here, I want to quickly go back and just share the PowerPoint on what we're doing. This is what's going on tonight for those of you who were not in earlier. We have a Comanche Tribe AGM that we're going to start tonight. It's not going to end tonight. It's going to keep going right on through August for the election, plus a whole mess of updates on all the different things that are going on. This is going to be a lot of fun. And with that, I will get rid of this thing and we can probably get to start doing the regular thing. In which case I will bring up the AGM PowerPoint and get that started. How's that sound?
Really good.
Okay.
I think we have 2 more minutes to just have fun and not go through boring stuff. So anybody else want to jump in and say who you are, where you are, and what you fly? See, we tongue twisted everybody.
Yeah.
I'm
gonna
John
go,
Westerfield, fly out of based out of Coleman, Alabama, flying out of Galveston for the next couple weeks.
Are you with us,
Welcome
Matt?
and good to have you here.
Yeah, I'm here. I haven't had anything since breakfast, so I'm gonna go get a bowl of soup. Permission granted?
Fishing grad.
Excellent.
Matt looks like he made it back in.
What? Say it again. What? What'd you say, CJ?
She said you made it back in. She's congratulating you.
Hey, Matt.
Comment on the Facebook inquiry on Comanche covers. I have a 260 and I've used both Kinnan and Bruce's covers. They're both excellent products. And I've used another one that was available at very much lower price. That was made overseas and it was not very good.
I had very good luck with my Canon cover, but the Bruce one only lasted about half as long.
Has anybody ever tried a Bruce cover with the extended dorsal fin? Like's in the picture of mine? Because I've got one ordered. I've got one ordered and they say it'll fit like that, and I just hope it does, so I don't have to send it back.
Well, I've had good luck with both products, but I agree. My Kinnan is well over 20 years old and still in service.
Looks like we lost CJ, huh?
Hey,
There you are.
there's quality products made in the USA.
Good deal. Yeah, actually, and we have two people who are starting to, with big sewing machines, who are starting to make two things, because I think we lost one of our cover makers, right? So, well, I think it is that time of the evening and it looks like it's 7:30. So Pete, do you want to introduce our topic tonight?
Okay, I'll go back to my original thing here. This is the thing I put up as a placeholder. We're doing two different things in particular. Definitely a very important thing is the Northeast Comanche Tribe AGM. The whole idea of doing it on a Zoom is so that everybody can get the information firsthand. It is not, there's no membership requirement or anything like that. We welcome all of your comments and encourage you to participate. Then we're also going to do a lot of updates on the various programs that we've been working on, whether it's group buys or anything else. The information we're trying to find about shops that do Comanche work, about AGM, training possibilities, CFIs that are good at Comanches, that kind of stuff. We're trying to make all kinds of lists of resources that we are available to players. Then we have also fly-ins that are happening now throughout the United States, not just up here in the Northeast. So we're talking about some of those things too. And with that, I'm going to get out of this thing and go back to the AGM meeting sharing, and hopefully, here we are. This is the main thrust of the meeting tonight.
Thank you, Pete. And I just want to recognize one more person I'm delighted to have here with us tonight, and that is FAADER Hans Newbert. And Hans, it's good to see you. I just want to thank you for all of the things you've done to keep us supported in flying and not have ADs that we don't need to have, and all the engineering work you've been doing. So welcome to Hans Newbert as well.
Hello, everyone.
Good to see you. And got quite a few PA30 drivers. Hans is another one. So, well, and for all of those of you who we have with us, I just want to say thank you for being here. Welcome to the 2021 start of the annual general meeting of members and associates and esteemed guests for the Northeast Comanche Tribe Inc. And what this meeting is about is the fact that we're a not-for-profit. We're dedicated to Comanche support. And Pete, let's go ahead and pop into the first slide and we'll try to whip through these. Keep it fun. Make sure if you have any questions, throw them into the chat window. We'll be able to see them as you chat, and so we can stop and grab them as they come in if you'd like.
I would suggest that everybody go to the speaker view up there, that right-hand corner, the single box. That way, whoever is talking will show up right on your screen.
So again, welcome to everybody. And just to reiterate, the purpose of the Northeast Comanche Tribe is laid out in our Articles of Incorporation. We are about educational, scientific, charitable efforts in support of the Piper Comanche aircraft, and of course, camaraderie, keeping our pilots connected and able to find each other and the resources that we need to enjoy our aircraft, use them for business, and fly safely and well. So thanks for being part of us all this time. And again, welcome. So just a point, a not-for-profit in Kansas, they call it a non-stock, is controlled by its members. This is a quote out of Wikipedia. A nonprofit corporation is controlled by its members and managed by a board of directors, which in Kansas they call a governing body, that's elected by and acting under the authority of the Articles of Incorporation. And that means that these companies are actually controlled by their members, which is not us. We're elected, but it's controlled by everybody else, the members. So welcome to your own meeting and to your own company. We do need to take some action. There has been a dispute, as many of you have heard, and we needed to request that the membership just be advised and reaffirm some actions and state your point of view. So with no further ado, if you look at the item that's in bold italics, that is a direct quote from a July 17th, 2017 email. And I just want to take a moment to be quiet, and I will read it for those of you joining by phone, because I just realized we have some folks coming in that can't see the screen. It says, the promotional material for CPTP, which was a Comanche training clinic that was well established and very popular, contained within the newsletter directly contradicts the policy I had kept as ICS president for the past 2 years. And we actually have the editors of 2 of ICS's communications to members here present, as well as several current, or rather former ICS presidents in the meeting with us here. And so I want to just quickly call on Hank Spellman, who was the editor of the Comanche Flyer magazine, which is the print magazine that gets mailed to everybody, and Pete Morse, who is the editor of both the newsletter that went out to the giant, ICS membership, and also the Northeast Comanche Tribe Agm has its own Nor'easter that Pete also edited. And just ask you guys to just confirm that there were training clinics that were in there when you guys approved your particular publications as the heads of your committees or the sole editor, and that they were then gone when they actually went out to all of the Comanche community. Is that correct?
That happened twice that I can think of with the electronic newsletter that went out to all members of the Comanche Society. It happened at least twice.
And Hank?
Yes, I was on the board at the time, and I was also on the editorial review committee. As a matter of fact, I started that committee back about 2000 or a little bit before. When I did the editing, there were a number of us that did it. I would mark everything, and I seldom read the magazine when it was published because I'd already read it closely 4 or 5 times, every word in it. And I was unaware that those notifications of clinics were removed. They were, as the not the managing editor, but the editor-in-chief, the final say was given after I was finished with my part, and I had no knowledge that there were any significant changes made after I had seen it.
So in short, sadly, there was a deliberate removal through a policy of a president of a lot of Comanche training clinic notifications. And that is unfortunate. Is there anybody here, forgive me, but is there anybody here who thinks that less training leads to safer pilots?
Absolutely. There's plenty of them. They had plenty to say about it in the ICS. Absolutely. There's apparently a large number of people to believe that. I'm not one of them, but apparently there are. Beats me.
Gotcha. Thank you for keeping it light. Does everybody concur that more training, good training, leads to safer pilots?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
I believe that.
Absolutely.
With
Well,
the
we-
codicil, the training has to be good training. There are
Yep.
some trainings going on with pilots and CFIs teaching pilots some very bad habits. And it not only is more training good, it's got to be good training.
I don't think anybody will disagree with you on that one. But I will say that as the head of the ICS Safety Committee, I was doing a review of the NTSB reports, and I'm happy to say that they had been declining steadily, that pilot error accidents were on the decline while that training was going on. So something was working. Is there anybody here who thinks that a company can do anything before it incorporates?
Absolutely not.
Oh, I profess that a number of them do. So the track record of many folks not necessarily pretending to be a company or incorporated do an awful lot of work before they are officially and legally incorporated. So that's a no-brainer.
CJ?
You go ahead.
Hi, it's Eric Sachs.
Eric, good to have you in.
Yeah, I've got to go back to my meeting shortly. Can I come back to you in a few minutes, or do you want me to talk real fast now and then go back to my meeting?
Well, I think that we may as well just bring you right in now. So Eric Sachs, I want to introduce Eric as a second generation Comanche pilot. Flies a 260B. Eric, is that right, out of New York?
Yes, correct.
Republic, yep. And Eric is also a former Northeast Comanche Tribe officer, vice president in 1994. And so Eric, I'm just going to go ahead and put you on the spot because it'll probably help us get through a lot of this material really fast. So you were there when the Northeast incorporated in 92?
Yes, I was.
And beforehand?
Yeah, I've been a member of the Comanche Society since 1978.
Nice.
So, I've been there. I've held my Comanche since 1978, and I've flown it for close to 5,000 or 6,000 hours, and was involved with the incorporation of the Northeast Tribe back in 92 or 94, whatever it was, 92, I think.
Mm-hmm. So you would know whether the company had adopted bylaws because you were there?
Correct. My father and several others, in those days, I was younger than I am now. But there was a whole discussion back at the time of the incorporation as to why the tribes were incorporating, how it got done. And then specifically after the incorporation, there was a conversation regarding bylaws, and there was a specific conversation amongst several of us. I was really more in the background listening. My father was more involved in that aspect, but there was a specific conversation that we were not going to have bylaws. It was just going to leave it the way it was. It would be very, very problematic and restrictive to adopt bylaws. It required a certain number of votes by certain members. There was a large number of members. So we were incorporated for liability purposes to keep us separate from the International Comanche Society, keep the Comanche Society separate from us, and keep each of the tribes separate from each other. So things would go on, and we would just, the Northeast Tribe, and we would just have fly-ins and do the things we did. Obviously, there's no technology like we have today. So that it was really for the camaraderie. There was the newsletter that the ICS put out, but there was a whole conversation about not, and we specifically never did adopt bylaws, and we never adopted bylaws when I was the assistant tribe chief.
Beautiful. And actually, we happen to have Bill Jackson. So while you were there helping out, Bill Jackson's here, and Bill was ICS president and, more importantly, ICS treasurer, and fixed the prayer shoebox of receipts into Bill, you want to mention quickly the really great service you did for the company at that time, and then a little bit about your role in presiding over what Eric just talked
CJ, I'm
about?
just gonna. I'm gonna zoom back in a couple of minutes. I'm gonna run out.
Okay, that's absolutely great, and congratulations to your friend on the Wright Brothers Master Pilot Award from all of us. Got, I don't know, 60 of
I
us
will
in
tell
here.
him.
Yeah. Oh, almost
That's
70.
great.
Yep. Cool. Way to go.
I'll zoom back in a couple of minutes.
Thanks, Eric.
This is Bill Jackson responding to your request, CJ.
Thank you, Bill.
I was treasurer for 2 years, and in the early stages, when we were basically we had an executive secretary, Donna, and
Holloway, right?
it became apparent that yes, Donna Holloway in Olaf, Kansas, and it became apparent that we needed to achieve some consistency and accountability in the ICS. I journeyed from my home in the East Coast to Olaf, Kansas, and there ain't much in Olaf, Kansas, I can tell you. You better have a pretty good idea where you're going electronically because it's all golden fields. But anyway, we spent 3 days with Donna, 2 or 3 days, and we installed generally accepted accounting practices and procedures. And we went forward as a society in pretty good order financially. Subsequently, I was asked to be treasurer 1 additional year to continue to monitor that situation and to help with the transition of, quote, financial advisors from a fellow named Jim McCabe to nobody for a while. And then subsequently I was elected president, although the dates are a little bit fuzzy here. I'm not certain it was 92 that I was president. And I did attend meetings where we discussed incorporating the Northeast Tribe and all the tribes in the U.S. And as the gentleman just said before me, there was a conclusion reached, a consensus reached, that we didn't need bylaws. We simply needed to incorporate in a very simple fashion to achieve some degree of protection via the corporate veil from liability that might be incurred by either ICS or other tribes. And so that took place in the Northeast and in other tribes. And in the Northeast, I can certainly tell you that there was a decision not to have bylaws. I'm not quite certain where these folks are getting that idea, but it was decided to the contrary, no bylaws.
Well, that makes the next couple of slides really quick because between you as the treasurer and then subsequently the ICS president and Eric as a lawyer who helped with and I think he was an attorney at the time, helped with the incorporation and then subsequently became an officer of the Northeast in '94, just afterwards. That's where, for all of you who are wondering why it is that the Northeast Comanche Tribe now concluded that the company had never adopted bylaws, we started with a review of some of the documents that had been found and said these don't seem to really constitute anything that we could responsibly say were an adoption of bylaws. And then as we started to interview people and try to really dig back and talk to everybody who was around that we could find in the 90s and before. And believe it or not, by the way, I just want to say, I am so proud and happy as a Comanche driver and fan that we have tons and tons of people who have stayed engaged, kept their Comanches. The number of people who have these in their families or who still have them and fly them. We have some of them in the room tonight that Ron from California, you in particular, I think you said you've been involved with the Comanche since you first got one from the factory or something like that. Anyway, so I think it was a 180 to a 400. It's really a testimony to the airplane that people get them and they love them and they fly them and they pass them along and they tell their friends and then their friends find out about them. And it's been a little bit of a rough period for just a couple of years, but airplane Comanche values are back up. Unfortunately, so are fuel prices, but and this too shall pass. So anyways, but back to the topic at hand. What we did was we found and interviewed lots and lots of people, all of the former Northeast Comanche Tribe officers that we could locate within a reasonable amount of time, and all of the individuals who were here. And the concurrence was that people didn't remember voting on bylaws. And what Eric Sachs just said and what Bill Jackson just said, they are the people who were here at the time. And when we finally found them, we were like, phew. So Bill, thank you for being here and sharing your memory and your actions with us. And Eric will be back. So that's it. What's going on right now is that we shouldn't really say ICS, but the people who have taken over and purport to be the governing body of the ICS are making claims that the Northeast adopted bylaws that give the ICS full control over the company, and trying to move those claims forward to order us to not communicate, which would stop the ComancheZOOMs and all the work we're doing, and other things that we're just trying to do what we do, and this is making it difficult. So I think we don't need to spend a lot of time on these. What we did was put up some of the documents that they're trying to claim we adopted, and point out that, for example, the one that's up on your screen right now uses no less than 5 different names to refer to the same entity. I think unless are there any questions or comments at this point? Okay, in that case, moving on. This is just some of the written comments we got. John Dunning was actually a Northeast Tribe chief for quite a few years. And from what we can tell from reviewing the flyers and talking to John, he still has his Comanche. He said, nope, we thought about adopting some, but we never got around to it. Bill Jackson, you just heard from. Nancy Zawistowski was interesting because she was in her 20s, I think, and obviously there weren't that many of us who were in the female side of the gender. And she was both the secretary and the treasurer, and she did something really nice. She dug into her basement and came back and said, to my recollection, we never had them. But in addition to that, I've thoroughly reviewed all the documents in the basement, and I can't find anything that even looks like that. And Nancy had worked with Ted Mager, and Ted was one of our founding directors. And I spoke with Ted near the very end of his life, and I'm sorry to say that we have lost him. But Ted's Comanche 260C is in Australia, and it is happily flying with somebody who's often in our meetings. So we're really happy to say that that airplane lives on and is beautiful. And I think it's getting a paint job. Not sure about that. Anyway, so there we are. Any questions at this point? Just checking the chat window to see. Looks like no questions on this. So at this point, we're just going to move along to a quick comment on elections. So in addition to claiming that we adopted bylaws, they were claiming that we had not held elections. Many of you obviously probably remember filling out and signing and stamping and mailing your ballots back for the last 3 years. Our elections committee chairman, I believe, is in the room with us. Bill Caniff, are you here? And if so, you'll need to unmute. I might be wrong. I thought I had seen Bill Caniff come in and join us. Well, I just want to thank Bill Caniff because he picked up a tough job. He was not at that time part of the Northeast Comanche Tribe, and he is a Comanche owner since 1975. He actually is ICS number 606, still a member there, and very much a valued part of our community here. And Bill is the one I just want to credit to bringing back the Comanche spirit, and that we'll get to another meeting, but it is so important. So welcome and thank you to Bill if he is still in the room.
Yeah, I'm in the room now. I'm unmuted.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for everything you've done in everybody's service all these years, and welcome and thanks.
Couldn't be happier.
So contrary to the claims that there were no elections held, we've had them every year. We did have, ironically, the very person who's asserting we adopted bylaws and that we weren't holding elections actually nominated himself to run in one, then emailed Pete and said, I'm contesting and suspending your election, and then had another election held for himself and declared that he was the winner. However, our election, once we were finished looking into his concerns and addressing them, actually, our election completed, and he lost 85-9, which, given that that time we had maybe 258, I think, people, was a significant portion of the people who were part of our membership group having Comanches speaking up. And then he claimed he didn't run. So all of you who opened that ballot and voted for one or the other, just so you know, there's the world according to that person. So unfortunately, there it is. I won't get too far into Kansas law, but even if we hadn't held elections, what happens under Kansas law is that the company just doesn't disappear if we hadn't. It, you know, and if you ever feel like we aren't holding elections, well, all you need to do is go and just send a letter into the Kansas court saying, hey, I think they didn't hold elections. Judge, please request that they hold elections. And under Kansas law 176505, the judge can ask us to hold an election, and then we have to go do it. So there's how to fix it. You don't actually go and kick down the door or go and get somebody else to hold an election, like Ford holding an election for General Motors and saying, now we own your company. Any questions at this point or comments?
Oh.
All right, well, so here is our request. We, as the governing body, have already authorized the next election, which the long-suffering Bill Caniff is election committee chair, is in the process of getting ready to happen. And as you may know, 3 years ago, we have these big fly-ins and we always announce them ahead of time. And so the ICS happened to say, or, you know, and I don't want to demonize the company because it's been so good for so many of us for so long, but the people who have taken it over and are running it said, you know, we're going to hold an election for you. And so we happen to have a meeting 2 days later, and a bunch of people showed up to, you know, they all flew into Parlin, and we got together at Salt Hill Pub for lunch, and bingo, everybody's like, well, what's going on? And we're like, and they said, well, let's take care of that. So Gloria Smith-Sawaski, now Gloria Smith, brought a motion from the floor to reject allowing the ICS to hold an election for Northeast Comanche Tribe Inc. And there you had it. It was and everybody voted, and it was unanimous. And so we had a corporate resolution. And so that resolution said, no, we're not allowing anybody to hold our elections but Northeast Tribe. And then they said to us, okay, you governing body, go figure out how to do this securely with paper ballots. And so that was what we did. And to make it a long story short, Bill Caniff put together an election committee. I want to just also thank Miller Einsel, who I think came in because Miller was a Maryland state election judge for, is it 12 years, Miller? Maybe 14 now, or 15, if you're still doing that. But what was helpful, go ahead, Miller. I think you unmuted and remuted.
Okay. I was an election judge here in Maryland since 2004, I guess, up till last year when they didn't hold an election for the election judges. So what we're going to do is enter that again next, well, I guess 2022. So I do have some experience with being an election judge, and consequently, Bill and all asked me to review the processes and the ballots and the count, and I did that. So in my small part, I helped us out, and hopefully I can do that again. So
Miller, thank you.
You're welcome.
for all of your service. And just for the cool factor, because Miller and one other Comanche driver, Miller, you want to tell everybody what your wife did or has done for a living?
Well, let's see. I had an open mic here during one of our vacations, and my wife is an astronaut. She we kind of went through her background and how she became an astronaut, and very proud of her, very proud of her. And some other time why we can go into that, but part of that was to also introduce our Comanche, and we had a group come over from the Netherlands and document Kathleen's participation in the Teacher in Space program, for which she was selected to fly, but was not on the first flight, fortunately. And we took them for a flight in the Comanche just before they left, and they filmed that or recorded it digitally, and they used it in a public service broadcast in the Netherlands. And so 4 or 5 Pop was shown in, internationally on a short flight around the area. So we had fun, and it was a good meeting with them, and they certainly represented Kathleen, and to a small degree, our Comanche.
You can't beat that with a stick, to have Miller, to have your Comanche shown on television, including internationally, because of Kathleen being an astronaut for the US for NASA. That is ultimately cool. And ironically, so thank you so much for helping us, and thanks to Kathleen for, for helping America and the world.
Well, you're welcome, and she appreciates your good thoughts in her behalf, and thank you.
All right, and forgive me, folks, because I know we're a little off topic here, but I just want to note that, Miller, as you were talking, Josh Simpson joined, who is another very cool Comanche driver who makes ridiculously amazing glass stuff. But Josh, do you want to mention what your wife does? Or did? You'll have to unmute though. Nothing like joining a meeting and being put on the spot, Josh, right? He had no idea I was going to do this to him. And so while Josh is trying to do this, I am just going to tattle on him and say Josh's wife is also a NASA astronaut. So if anybody doesn't think that Comanches are wickedly high on the cool factor, well, there's just a little bit more evidence. Anyways, so at the end of this meeting, this section of the meeting, and we'll get on to the key projects and things that are really critical to type support, but we'll be asking you to just vote to authorize or confirm our authorizing the 2021 election. Any questions or comments?
That correction on all of the elections, not just the 2021.
Thanks, Pete, for the clarification. Pete is absolutely correct. Everyone can vote. We'll be tallying according to Kansas statute, but we actually invite everybody to vote, in part because it's the input from everybody that steers what we need to do. Like, the people that know best what we should be doing is everybody. So there's, so that's it. If, please go to the web form at the end. Pete will be telling you where that is, and just vote. All right, so if are there any further questions or comments at this point? Okay. Then Pete, if you would move us forward. Here we go.
You want to mention the bottom paragraph here?
About the 41?
No.
Oh, the current, yep. And that was what I was speaking to, Pete, was just saying to people, we're going to just, we've already authorized the 2021 elections, and Bill is already in the process of starting to move them forward. What we're requesting is just that you all reconfirm or reauthorize or ratify what we are doing. One other thing that we are recommending is that we create a provisional class, and that is a class of non-voting members that exist and have input and apply for full membership. And here's why. Right after announcing the 2018 elections, we had an odd thing happen, and we had 41 people appear. And the list on the left is the first page of a 3.5-page list of all of these people. And we thought that's funny, because normally we'll see 1 or 2 people coming in and going out. And so I called, because one of the ways that you could become a member was to join the ICS and then either ask to be put into the Northeast or do nothing if you happen to be in the area, and you would get put there. And so I asked the question, hey, what, like, these people all look like they're from the same place. And they said, yeah, Shiloh must have had a party. They all came from his address. And so we had somebody who is really, really good with geocoding map and say, well, they're all, or virtually all are within a very small radius of Shiloh's house. And they said, and the other odd thing is that many of them who are giving Florida residents addresses have actually got second houses in that same immediate area. That's not illegal. There's, in the case of not having a lot of rules, as far as we know, there was nothing to prevent it. But the problem from an IRS standpoint, or just from a standpoint of what we're trying to do as a company, which is, type support camaraderie, is that a very generous person took this entire list and went and hit the FAA pilot databases and the aircraft registration databases. And they said, we can't find a name address match. Now, as we come to hear about it later more, it looks like some of them were just misspelled. There were a couple of people who actually were pilots, but no Comanche pilots. And so they appear to have all been added. And the other thing that was odd is, Pete, if you can pop over to the next page, they were all, or virtually all, spousal memberships. And historically, there's only 3% or sometimes a high of 5% that have been spousal memberships. But it is a really inexpensive way to add a lot of people if you just add everybody and their spouse. And as somebody just pointed out, there were also no medical certificate matches, because a different person went and checked them all against the medical database. So at that time, these people just didn't really seem to have anything to do with going back to the very beginning with scientific, charitable, or educational efforts or camaraderie amongst, Comanche pilots. So, but we kept them on the roster because, we never said anything about it, and sent them ballots along with everybody else. And so what we're proposing, though, is that this kind of apparently political process isn't really part of the business or the mission of trying to support the Comanche type, and that we therefore create a non-voting provisional class of membership so that new members can join, but we're still protecting the mission of the organization. Any thoughts or comments? And Pete, go ahead on to the next one, because it's about the same.
Yes, CJ, I have a question. What would the rules be for putting someone in a provisional class as opposed to a regular class?
It would be a time if we saw, I mean, for the most part, everybody has always been welcome. Everybody will always be welcome. It would be an opportunity for us to simply, if we saw something like this happen again, to say, hey, do you really want to be here?
Perhaps a consideration would be, if you don't have a medical certificate, how much of a pilot can you be? That is certainly one possibility.
That is a really good question and point. I think that the reason that we would probably not want to require a medical certificate is that so much of our knowledge and wisdom come from people who may no longer have them. But certainly if somebody had never gotten interested in aviation, we might certainly then be like, well, you know, did you find us by mistake? You know, do you really want to become a voting member? I think that the answer is we don't have an answer to that, yes. But people need to apply. And at that point, if we start to see a wave of people who have nothing to do with the company, we can respond and say, you know, we're open to people who legitimately support the Piper Comanche, and it's to be done. But the business of trying to figure out what that would be relies on the desire to have a provisional class, and perhaps to leave it to to a committee, a membership committee, to apply and accept people. We're obviously incredibly inclusive right now, and I do want to say that I think is an important aspect of who we are.
There is on the website a membership application form, which gives a lot of information about you to the Comanche people, to us. So we can at this point say, if you're interested in being part of this, like you say, you know, put my name on the list for a ComancheZOOM. That's one way of becoming a interested party. And then if you do the membership application, then you're definitely going to be a member.
Yeah. And I just want to welcome John Dunning, because John Dunning served the Northeast Comanche Tribe for a number of years as its tribe chief. And he just put in a couple of really good suggestions into the chat window. So thank you for being here. Thank you for everything you've done to support us and all of the hours of volunteer time and effort. And welcome.
My pleasure, CJ.
So a couple of comments from the chat window, because they're pretty germane. So Mike Ellis asked who could vote, and right now anyone, oh, I'm sorry, that was earlier, has been addressed. So John reiterated Robert's question. There's been a private comment from somebody who happened to know that one of the people added, or one of the things added as a voting member, was a car wash, that probably they should be a provisional member. Robert Baird has pointed out that a friend doesn't have a medical, but still has a substantial investment in the PA-24. And I think we all concur that we want people who have investments in or real interest in to be part of this. John's proposed, what about has had or does have a medical and has logged hours as at least a student and maybe PIC? I concur that that would definitely be a qualifier. Although, because one of the groups of people we really want to have input are spouses, interested kids. It's a tricky question. Chris has asked, is the goal to be the official type club? Can control of ICS be gained somehow, maybe via the courts? And I think that I cannot speak for the governing body, but I will answer that question for myself. We are not trying to gain control of the ICS because they have been such a beneficial organization existing in parallel. I do think we have some real objections to what's been done recently. And that's part of our, kind of, but that's a different matter. There is a real drumbeat to have an official, to assume status as a type club. And I think that is definitely going to be coming up later, because I've already gotten people being like, hey, can you put this on the agenda? Is that so in short, the provisional class is the request, and how it works will be hashed out later. A comment from somebody who's not got a mic: I don't have a problem with a provisional membership or even a non-voting membership. And then just a comment, the Northeast, despite its name, has, as far as we know, always had people from all over the world, from snowbirds to just people who wanted to be part of it. And as Bill Jackson had said to me at one point, people belong to both the ICS and to tribes, and some people even belong to multiple tribes and AOPA and EAA, and they're all different companies, and you can belong to them all, as many as you want. I'd like to ask Bill Caniff to comment, because I know he's given some thought to this. And then I want to come back to some very good ideas in the chat window. Bill, you'll need to unmute.
I think I'm unmuted now.
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay, on which issues? I have the plan for the election, and we're talking about the members now, right? Are the provisional members?
That's correct.
Okay. The thinking that I would have at this point is anybody can be a provisional member who ultimately should be a full member. And let that be a stepping stone.
Fair enough. Just to finish reading in, because we have a number of people attending by phone, suggestions from the chat window. An addition from Robert Baird, who owns one or more Comanches. I think everybody would agree with that. Anybody object to that? George Grattan says, how about inviting all immediate family members that share the same address and fly the same plane to be full voting members at the very minimal cost of $1? That would be one for the membership committee to hash out. The only question I'd have is the question that comes up in the US about the little states and the big states. Does that kind of give the big families way too many votes compared to the little families? But I certainly like the idea of having all immediate family members that share the same address and fly the same plane be members. Bill Jackson has a lot of corporate experience and has just suggested that anyone desiring membership complete an application, and that the company authorize a membership committee to review such application and make recommendation to the board of directors that the application prevail as a member.
Mm-hmm.
If I can make a suggestion that become a motion that can be modified or discussed, because we have a section at the end of the meeting for that. Would that be reasonable for everybody?
Yes.
Anybody? Go ahead and throw your comments or questions into the chat window if you object. I'm seeing a lot of nods. John Dunning, who again, like Bill, has a lot of experience, says, I support the idea of provisional. We will need to work out a fair and well-designed set of rules. Good. George is like, I like full members. I agree. Yep. And so Bill adds, I'd be concerned with a separate class. Who decides when an individual is provisional, for how long, when they can upgrade, and under what criteria? So and Chris Burnley is offering to donate ComancheGroup.com domain to make the name of the current name of the company more inclusive. And by the way, for what it's worth, Kansas allows name changes in a very, very simple way. All right, Bill, we've got your move. We will bring this up. Hank notes, I've been following the ICS membership closely for the last few months. I have noted that some of the same 41 people are rejoining lately. Does this have anything to do with the ongoing vote now in progress? That would be the vote to change ICS's bylaws. He doesn't know, but he's raising the question. So thank you for the excellent discussion. If anybody has anything more that they would like to put in, feel free to speak or to put notes into the chat window.
Well, this is Miller Einsel speaking again. I reviewed the bylaws that they're trying to pass, as many of you probably have, but I've been a member for 33 years, My membership terminated at the end of May. And they have a provision in the bylaws that says that they can expel a member for either with or without cause. And I just refuse to belong to an organization that can expel someone on a whim of the board of directors without cause. I can't belong to an organization like that. I have belonged, I thought it was good to hear where ICS was going and provide information on that to help us out, but I'm afraid my contacts with ICS are now been severed. So maybe somebody else remains a member, maybe Bill Knefferl can continue to keep us updated on ICS, but I just can't all in good conscience remain a member. I'm sorry to lose that, but that's my feeling, and I just think they've got to learn a lesson, and if they don't, as I told them, they're building a wall around themselves, and it's not going to be an inclusive, it's going to be what the people that are running it want it to be, and without input. And if they don't like your input, they can expel you without cause. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah.
Miller, I had a similar experience, or rather, you're mentioning about a proposed bylaw change to allow them to expel people without cause, but in fact, that's not really going to be a change because as I found out when I went to renew my membership about a year ago, I had been expelled without any notification to me, or without any hearing, or without any communication to me. I just went to renew my membership, and which had expired, and couldn't do it. When I called the place in Traverse City that runs the membership renewals and takes the credit cards and so on, I said, I'm having trouble renewing. And they said, oh yeah, you're on the do not renew list. I said, what's that? They said, it's a list of people who can't renew. I said, well, how did I get put on there? Oh, I don't know. You'd have to check with Ab or Kate. Well, so this bylaw change wouldn't really be a change at all, because they can already dismiss anybody from membership anytime they want, by telling them or by not telling them.
Well, I think what this makes it official. I didn't know that prior to reading the new bylaws, and it just simply makes what happened to you official. And they might have done it in the past, but I think they wanted to be on the legal side and make sure that there's no repercussions from them doing that. It's just a move to make it official.
I want to put on a black hat here for a moment. We're talking about ICS stuff, and here we're having a meeting about Northeast Comanche stuff. Let's try not to get them confused.
Good point.
Yeah.
This is Hank Spellman. I would like to add one more thing. I served on the bylaw committee for, I don't know, somewhere around 20 years. Many of the phrases that they're changing were put in to address various problems, particularly not following the bylaws. I have noticed that they are getting rid of Robert's Rules of Order. Robert's Rules of Order are probably the gold standard and have been for the last 100 or 150 years as far as how to run an organization. They will be gone, and the Rules of Order will be instituted by the Comanche board, Comanche Society board, and they will be whatever they feel they want them to be on a moment's notice. Also, they have changed that the board must approve all items that are going to be subjected to a vote with a membership. If they don't like it, there's no vote. There is a way that by having a certain percentage of the members endorse that, a particular change, that there will be a vote. There has only been one instance of that in the past under the present bylaws. And we all know how that went. The vote was never held.
This was the huge petition by 11 of the 12 tribes and 110 members. Is that the one under the ICS's bylaws, Hank?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Basically, the big thing is once those bylaws are changed, they will never be changed again unless the board wants it.
So those of you who still have or retain a relationship with the ICS, and even those of you who had one, may wish to write a letter expressing your opinion. And then if you care to, you can send a copy and we'll try to at least keep a compilation. The ICS did a beautiful, splendid, superb job for decades. Our family's been involved since '87, and it was one of the best organizations on the planet until quite recently. And the turning point appears to correlate with when Maurice Taylor passed away. Not too long after that, things started to change as we go back through the history. I'm not omniscient, but at least I can say that much. I will add one more thing before we get back on track, and that is Miller and Hank and Pete and have raised a couple of points. I'm going to just bring out why I think Hank's concern is germane. And that is two things. One is in wanting to remove, actually, Mark Sullivan just joined us. And so Mark, sorry, because you're just coming in. What's happened is that there's been some discussion of the recent actions of the people who are claiming to be the ICS board. And what I want to raise is just two things. One is that Mark, who is a former Navy captain in the JAG Corps and an attorney who's admitted in 5 states, on a pro bono basis, offered to the board that they might want to be careful of their actions and documented to them that the ICS bylaws required Robert's Rules of Order to be used if they were going to remove anybody, and that there's a very specific procedure that happened to have been emailed to the board in writing the whole section on removals. And what Mark did was he documented that they had edited those to remove the rights of anybody who was accused to bring a witness or anything else. So the net effect of this was that people could be accused and then they wouldn't have a chance to defend themselves because that right to bring a witness or ask questions, certain types of asking questions had just been edited out. And so that, and because bylaws can only be changed by the membership, the board just wasn't allowed to do that, but they had done that anyways. And then I had pointed out to the person that's Kate Burrows, I wrote her and I said, geez, Kate, you can't even create this investigational committee because the bylaws don't allow you to do that. And she wrote, and I don't even know if she realized she'd copied me. She wrote and she said, well, that's true, but what do you guys want to do? She wrote to a subset of the board and said, do you want to just continue anyways? And unfortunately, there was a small group of people that said, just ignore that and proceed anyways. And so those emails came to me, and it was a very sad indication that the group that had taken over control had no intention of upholding their agreement with the membership because they were acknowledging that they were breaking it and they were proposing to continue anyways, and in fact did do so. So sorry for taking our time with this, but I did want to explain that when Hank says that if this continues forward, his opinion is that it's irreversible, that it would take a very big action, probably in a court. I don't know to change it. So that is the situation with, unfortunately, with a very, very fine organization for a very long time that a lot of people put terrific work into, and that's the ICS. That said, please remember that it was a great company that did great work on a lot of good things. Any last comments?
Yes, I have one, CJ. Thanks, I would urge everybody to vote and vote no. Yes, there are problems with the current bylaws. I recognize that. I've been working with them for the last 20 years. But the bylaw committee worked on, if everybody didn't agree, it didn't go forward. And there were some people that wouldn't agree. You can vote until, I think it's 2000 Zulu on the 15th. I urge you to vote and to vote no. You'll never have another chance to vote if it passes. And I might also add that CJ gave only one of the many, many examples. For example, when she was booted out, the main charge was she had knowingly disseminated false information. The investigative report, and I'm quoting this from memory, but it said essentially, the committee cannot find any instance where where we could show that she intentionally disseminated incorrect information that the majority of the members would agree with.
Okay.
Okay.
I joined late, but can anybody describe the motives for why they'd want to do this?
Oh, Josh,
and
there's
if-
been some financial analysis, but I think that we would really take the meeting.
Okay. Sorry.
So,
Sorry.
nope, not at all. It's a really good question. A lot of people have asked it. I think that it would possibly be a long conversation and unwise to get into it.
Okay.
May I add
But
one-
it's a good question.
May I add one quick one? If you were their buddies, you could do anything and suffer no consequences. For example, their treasurer did not issue a financial statement for nearly 3 years. Nothing. If you don't believe me and you're a member, go look at the posting dates on the financial statements that are on the bylaw, that are on the ICS website. There's one date in there that's obviously the posting date. And I looked at those and did some calculations, and there was one that was about 1,200 days past the period of closing. There is absolutely
and Hank,
no excuse or explanation for that.
Yeah. And Hank, I agree, but I'm going to bring us back to here where we are and thank everybody for caring, because it is part of our community, is part of who we are. So moving on to where we're at. And yes, Bill's just put a note in saying, I think we're off topic, and I agree, that's correct.
Next topic, next slide.
Yep, exactly. So here's some of the good things, and that is, we've got this huge number of ComancheZOOMs. We have our fly-ins. We have some group buy specials that have resulted in, I think at this point, a couple hundred shoulder harnesses going into Comanches, a whole bunch of ADSB equipment at a huge discount, electronic magnetos and magneto replacements and autopilots. And, obviously the autopilot projects are part of what's we think has been affecting an increase in the values of our Comanches. And that's what's really cool. You increase the value of an airplane a little bit, multiply that by 4,000, you're talking millions of dollars of effect. And as Garmin said, the Comanche community was the most organized and the most vocal of any type in working with them to get the GFC 500, for example, approved. And the fact that the whole Comanche community brought DERs and mechanical engineers and like Matthew Smith with his Comanche Docs Online project and A&P and just guru of the Comanche Zach grant together to help get that project going forward. And as a result, we have more capable airplanes that fly safer and have increased values. And that is potentially an increase in many millions of dollars of value to all of us, not to mention preventing our airplanes from getting written off if we have a minor accident by insurance companies that see that our value is too low and don't insure us enough. So many good things, lots of great assets of mostly intellectual property that have been contributed by at this point, hundreds or maybe even thousands of people who have Comanches. So this, we don't really have much in the way of money, but we have an awful lot of really great intellectual property and content. And so we thought, well, all right, so here we are, you know, you've got a current governing body, but how do we, if we have a situation that happens where like, you know, the company goes on and many good things happen, and then for some reason, a not so good governing body gets in, how do we give all of us as members an option to take an action to protect all of this good stuff that we put together? And we thought, well, maybe we can have an advocate, like somebody who's entitled to call an election if the governing body goes off the rails. And so if we go on to the next page, we thought, well, maybe we can ask all of you what you think about appointing an advocate so that 20 members can go to the advocate and say, we've got a complaint. Could you please call an election? And they can't overthrow the company, but they can call an election and then everybody can vote. So in short, thank you for being here. The proposals that we had were to just repudiate any so-called bylaws. And I think Bill Jackson and Eric Smith, Bill Jackson and Eric Sachs have told you what actually happened. And we just wanted to ask you to formally say, yep, we confirm, we concur. We're these so-called bylaws are not ours. Recertify the elections that have already been held. Many of you have voted in them, and then also just concur with the call for the fall 2021 election. Vote to, I would say from the discussion, to maybe appoint a committee to figure out what a provisional class of membership would look like, and vote to appoint an advocate, somebody who would be empowered to, if y'all didn't like whoever the governing body was or what it was doing, to just bring a request for a voting and demand an election.
CJ, this is Pat.
Pat, thank you for being here with us. Go ahead.
Yes, I just want to reaffirm and request that you specify to people, in case they forgot, we're not talking about just people in geographical Northeast US being asked to vote. We're asking for everybody that is with us now on this Zoom.
Absolutely. Pat, thank you so much for bringing that up. Yes. And this meeting is, you know, we're asking you to vote, but this meeting also continues. There'll be we'll continue to have a chance. People who couldn't be here will continue to be able to give their input, but Pat's absolutely right. And just to reiterate, although we had the name Northeast, to our knowledge, people were always free to join and belong to, you know, AOPA, Northeast Comanche Tribe Inc., ICS Inc., the 400 Tribe Inc., Southeast Tribe Inc., all of that. And so, and we have always had people from geographically disparate areas. And that is becoming more true now as the Northeast has continued to be active and as there's been some vacuums in type support that we're starting to fill. So everybody is welcome to apply to become a member wherever you are, if you love and want to support Piper Comanches and their owners and operators.
The key word is participate.
What Pete said.
Yep.
So
shall I stop this and go to how to vote?
That would be super. Let me just ask, is there any discussion from the floor, or can we have Pete show everybody how to vote? I'm going to go quickly to the chat window because, and just see if there's Northeast Comanche Tribe AGM specific input in there.
I'd just like to refresh. Did you say you wanted everyone on the call to be able to vote on the Zoom?
Yes, absolutely. Yep. And to send us your comments, suggestions, guidance.
Okay, I can actually show you how this works if you'd like.
Go.
You go to Comanche, northeastcomanche.org. That's the website. Hopefully. Nope, I gotta run it. Hang on.
We're going to crash the website.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and continue to read for those who are joined by phone, a couple of comments that are germane to the discussion that we're having. From Terry, to preclude last minute ballot stuffing and ensure an interest in the group, why not require that before allowing voting rights, the person is a member for a period of time, a month or two, and attend several functions such as Zoom meetings? That would ensure real interest in the group.
Okay, if you have gone to Northeast Comanche, the homepage, you then go to tribe documents, because this is an official tribe document. And then down toward the bottom of it is the AGM resolution voting form. And this is it.
Now, before
CJ, it's
you
Bill
vote,
Jackson.
we
Can you hear
haven't.
me?
I can hear you, Bill. And I was just about to say, before you vote, folks, there's a motion on the floor that Bill Jackson made. And I'd like to second it because it has to do with something we would be voting on, and it may amend what you're voting on. Bill, can I go ahead and hand this to you because it was your motion?
Yes. I
Sorry
need
to put
get
you on
back
the
to
spot.
exact wording.
Sure. Do you want me to scroll back and read it?
Please go ahead and read it. I want to add a couple of words at the end of it, but I can't find it.
Okay,
So go ahead,
will
please.
do. Yep. And before I scroll back to Bill's motion on the provisional membership, I just want to add one other comment in the chat window, which is from Joe Hand. On the issue of a provisional class of membership, it seems that we have to define what is the minimum requirement for a full class of membership. If one does not meet the requirements for a full membership, then they fall into the provisional membership class. I suggest either a current or past Comanche ownership, a pilot's license, or substantiated interest in Comanches is qualifying for full membership. And then I'm going to, and so Joe, thank you for that very good comment. And I apologize. I'm going to go ahead and reread the motion.
CJ, I found it.
Over to you, Bill.
If I may.
Please.
I move that anyone that the company appoint and authorize a membership committee, and that anyone desiring membership complete an application, and that the membership committee review such application and make recommendation to the board of directors for approval or disapproval as a member. Thus, it becomes a board decision, which of course is the result of an election. So it remains in the control of the membership. And that's the intent and purpose of that motion. I just don't think we ought to adopt something here that's not well defined with clear understanding and of the parameters and the rules of it. I'm done.
I'm showing the membership application form that is on the website.
Super.
Whatever
right now,
form
Pete,
is-
I'm not seeing the form. I'm just seeing the to vote on the resolution. So
right.
Check your screen share. I will speak and in support. I can't vote normally, but I actually want to just concur with Bill Jackson's motion. It's a big step. I think that we don't, and I think that other people have said this as well. We want a well-defined and fair proposal.
How do we, so the motion's on the floor. How are we all going to vote on Bill's motion? Just in the chat?
Pete's putting up a link and we'll need to put that into the chat.
That's the link to the whole thing, not just for the motion.
Correct.
If we
What would
wanna
happen
deal-
is,
if we
Pete,
wanna
are
deal
you
with
able
it-
to put up the web form, please?
Yep.
And Chris Burnley just made a good point, which is that 20 members may be too small for a recall. If we had thousands, that would be an annoyance factor by a small group, and I would concur.
Okay, here's the web form. And here are the questions.
Can we vote on this form or do we have to?
This is the way it was set up. This is before the motion that you just made, Bill.
I understand. Do we do it here on this? You brought it up on my screen.
It's on the screen, but you'll have to go to the form on the website in order to get to it. And
All right, can you revert back to the screen of getting on it?
Yep, you start with the Northeast Comanche Tribe homepage. Go to Tribe Documents. And then on that Tribe document.
Many people, hold on for 1 second, Pete, many people won't know unless you say go to northeastcomanche.org. But I think a faster
where I
way,
was.
yeah, for most people would be to simply paste the link to the voting form.
Okay. These are the
would be a
ones
good-
right here.
Okay, so we,
There's a link in chat. Click on the link.
Okay.
It'll open the form.
Bingo.
And Pete, I believe the way the questions are worded, the board is an affirmative, is looking for an affirmative on every line, correct?
Yes, correct. And you have to vote, you have to fill in one of the holes or not. You know, like if you choose here or here.
But the board is recommending an affirmative on all 5 questions,
That
correct?
is correct. That is correct.
As far as the discussion on the provisional membership and this idea of 20 being a number that may be modified, this vote that's being taken right now can be modified readily in the future.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Correct. And I would recommend, this is CJ again, on the provisional, vote yes, no, or abstain. And, but in the member comments at the bottom, if you agree, and I will be voting, I would vote that I would recommend that we accept Bill Jackson's motion.
well, I'm having trouble getting into the website, CJ, I'm sorry.
Not at all. So for those of you who are, so for those with the chat window, great. But for those not, if you go to northeastcomanche.org.
Okay.
CJ, Chris Algery, I got a quick question. Are you recommending that in member comments you put that you accept Bill Jackson's comments?
That would be my recommendation, and we would count that as a vote to accept Bill Jackson's motion.
Okay. just
as
want-
modifying
understand.
the provisional membership recommendation.
Yeah, okay, just wanted to clarify.
Yep.
Reiterate the motion as stated, please.
Bill, are you able to
Go
do
ahead,
that?
CJ.
Okay, I'll
No,
do
go
that.
ahead. I'm still trying to get in the website.
All right. So while I scroll to the motion as stated, folks, Pete, can you continue? So everybody, if you've gone to northeastcomanche.org, I'm going to ask our secretary and webmaster, Pete Morse, to guide you slowly through what to click on to get to the web form. And I'm going to scroll to the motion and read it into the meeting.
This is the website itself up at the top, northeastcomanche.org. That will bring you to this main page. And once you're on the main page, in the middle of the links at the top of the page is Tribe Documents. Click on that link. Brings you to this page, Tribe Document page. And then the lower
Okay.
left-hand corner, the AGM resolution voting form.
Okay, I'm there. Thank
Click
you
on
so
that.
much.
Click on that and you have the
Good deal.
form in front of you. And I'm gonna fill it out in front of your face right here, just so you see what goes on. It already knows who I am, so there it is. And I always put the state in because I forget to do that. The phone number, I mess with the format, but what the heck. Then question number one is the housekeeping things that we had at the beginning of the presentation. If you approve of it, click approve. Second one is disavowing the bylaws. You agree to that. Members agree to rectify, recertify the elections of 2017 through 21. Agree. Appointing a member advocate, which is what allows for taking care of somebody that's trying to take over the company. Agree. And then call for a creation of a non-voting professional class for membership. That's the one that is affected by Bill's motion that we create the committee in the
Suggestion.
first place. And so down here. in the
May I
member comments-
suggest that we simply add in,
Go ahead.
CJ, if I could make a further suggestion. How about in the member comments, we simply say that question number 5 be approved as amended by motion from Bill Jackson.
Okay, I
Agree.
can do that on the form. I will not be able to do that till I get home, but I can do it on the
No,
form.
and actually, yes. Okay, so that will be,
I would.
yeah. So I
yes,
guess,
I
let me
like the
just as
idea
a
of-
point of procedure, Pete, just a second. As a point of procedure, this meeting is recorded. I just want to confirm that at this point, we don't run by Robert's rules. We're a little bit more informal than that, but it looks to me like we have a quorum here. We would just agree that you are now voting on Bill Jackson's motion so that the question related to provisional membership is amended.
Okay.
Is there anybody who does not, now since we still have 60 people in this meeting, could you either speak or chat only if you disagree with that? Do we all concur? If we do not concur with changing that to Bill Jackson's suggestion, which I just pasted into the chat window in which I'm going to read, he suggests that those desiring membership complete an application and that the company authorize a membership committee to review such application and make recommendation to the governing body or board of directors to for approval as a member. If you don't think that's a great idea, stick a note into the chat window or go ahead and unmute and speak up. Otherwise,
That's a great approach, CJ.
okay. We have enough people. It's a 60-person meeting.
I'm just going to break in here to give a shortcut to those who haven't typed out the long URL to get to the voting. It's now accessible through the simplified URL of vote.northeastcomanche.org. That will take you to the correct page. That's vote.northeastcomanche.org.
Malcolm, maestro, well done.
Yes. I did finally get in there, CJ. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you for your wisdom.
Yeah, CJ, I'm not sure if it makes any difference, but I've put in the comments below. I've already sent an approved motion by Bill Jackson, but for some reason, question 5, I've abstained. I intended to vote for it, but it's gone already. It shouldn't make
Gotcha.
any difference though.
Bill, if you want, fill it out again, and I will take the most recent.
Yeah, I can do that. Okay, I'll do it.
That was a question that Miller had, was how are we going to make sure that people don't vote more than once? And it is simply, if I find duplicates, I will take the most recent.
Yep.
I'm going
And
to go
Chris
ahead.
is suggesting. Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and vote here online, so you'll see what happens when I hit send. This is what comes to me as the web guy. And as you can see down here, well, you can't actually, down at the bottom, there's some hidden fields that come along that tell what the computer address was that this came from and what server it came from.
Yeah, that's what I got, Pete. That's how I found out that I instead of agreeing to 5, I abstained.
Yeah.
Troublemaker.
Good deal. Well, would anybody like to hear about, so we'll do whatever you told us to do. And we'll be continuing to get input and we'll continue to do what y'all tell us to do. And this would probably be a good time to adjourn the formal governance part of the meeting. And if there are no more comments, we'll adjourn and talk about some of the key projects and initiatives.
CJ, this is Rich Bergman. Should we, since I've just been an attendance member, like probably most of the people here, for some certain length of time, should I actually, or we actually fill out a membership form to make it more or less official? I'm a Robert's Rules of Orders guy. I've been involved in a number of organizations rewriting bylaws, which is it's really a contact sport most of the time. But if you stay with it and use Robert's Rules of Order as your number one and only, you'll get it done. And so that was my question. Should I fill out an official membership form at some point to make it legit, or are we not an organization that requires a membership form at this time? And the other thing I want to throw in is an operations manual that I've been involved in on several of the clubs is a very reasonable tool by which you conduct day-to-day operations. It takes a little bit of work, and with everybody's input, it can be done. And it is time. It does take time, but it's very, very interesting and distinct manual. Thank you.
Does that mean you're volunteering, Rich?
No, I'm not volunteering because I didn't get up from this computer and go to the bathroom like what's happened to me a number of times and ended up president or CEO. Let us say I'm negotiable.
Okay. Well, in that case, we're still looking forward to your ComancheZOOM on how you were able to convince the FAA to include a whole class of people with a certain medical situation. And so we'll be talking about 2 things then in the future.
I'll be happy to do that with regard to diabetes anytime you want. It was a very interesting journey and obviously very successful.
You're here and flying, and so are a whole bunch of other people thanks to your efforts. So thank you for what you did and do. So yes, filling out the application would be much appreciated for a bunch of reasons. Some of you have been on these Comanche Zooms before. One of the reasons that it helps is some of you have seen, so at this point, I'd like to make a motion to formally adjourn the governance portion of the meeting to be continued to the in-person meeting, the AGM in person that will be happening later in the year in August. Any opposed?
CJ, Bill Jackson once more, and I'll leave you alone. I just want to compliment and laud all of you and all of those who have worked with you for all you have accomplished with this organization and on behalf of the Comanche aircraft and pilots. It's just magnificent. I salute you.
Bill Jackson.
For those that are looking for the membership thing, again, you go back to the Comanche, Northeast Comanche form links on the far right here. And on that page, you will find a membership application right there.
Beautiful. It's the top left, right, Pete?
Top left, yep, right underneath tribe form.
Yeah.
There's also a fly-in registration, all kinds of stuff.
I just want to.
We got 2 fly-ins coming up.
There are more and more fly-ins, Pete.
Next week, and then after that is Piper.
Yep. And I will jump quickly sideways to say, go to the Piper Museum fly-in if you can on June 26th. They're going to have Comanche serial number 1 in pride of place at the Piper Museum at Lock Haven. So bring your Comanche home to where it was born to see mom and go admire serial number 1. And go say hi to a very fine DER and engineer for our Comanche since 1962 with Piper, and his successor, another Comanche driver, is head of the Piper Museum. That to register for that, and it's optional that you do so, but just go ahead and click on the northeastcomanchetribe.org, go to fly-ins, fill it in, and what that does is, I said it's optional, but we'll start to include you on a list of the countdown list for where we're planning to go, and we talk about weather and any other things that come up, and we just pass the information along to the group. To Bill Jackson, to a former ICS treasurer and president, and a Northeast Comanche Tribe chief prior to our incorporation, and the writer of some of the best and funniest stories and most amazing ones I've ever heard. Thank you for all of your support and your commitment and the bringing of the knowledge that you had in support of Comanches. And to Pat Donovan and to Pete Moore, I mean, all of us are here tonight talking about something that almost everybody in the world found really, really boring. And although, you know, as always, we've had people come in and out of the room, but I bet there have been 100 people that have popped in and out into the AGM and into governance. And this is why we're such a cool group. Thank you so much for sticking with us, for supporting us, for giving us your thoughts and your comments. I know based on your input tonight that what we're going to end up doing is going to be better and wiser than it would if it were just the 4 of us thinking. So thank you for being part of this and for giving us your wisdom and
thank
your
you,
input.
CJ.
And Bill,
oh, thank you.
CJ,
Good night.
Yeah, CJ, this is Murray. You put a motion out to adjourn the official AGM, or to pause the official AGM. I second that motion. I recommend we have a vote yes or no, just to make sure you're official.
Okay, perfect. And thank you for clarifying and correcting
no
my
problem.
motion. So Murray's amendment to pause it is accepted. Thank you so much. So everybody, can we pause or continue this meeting to its official conclusion at an in-person meeting?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Okay, the formal governance is continued. Thank you all so much. Who wants to hear about the cool stuff?
Now.
Go for it.
Yay, okay.
CJ, Bill, I have to go. Thank you
Bill,
again,
thank
and
you
good night.
so much for your time. Thanks. Look forward to seeing you
You're
at
welcome.
one of those Eastern fly-ins. Take care.
I'm going to try to make it. Thank you. Bye.
We're looking forward to it.
TJ, could you take into, as a suggestion, at the Piper meeting when it's scheduled for us who live 3,100 miles away, and it would cost us at today's gas prices $10,000 to fly across and back, to maybe schedule at some point interesting in that a 1 or 2 hour virtual. Just take it under as a suggestion.
You know what, Rich? You're right on. Eric Sachs, who was the person that came in at the beginning, and had said the same thing. He's like, hey, can you simulcast? Like, we need to start getting together in person, but can you do a ComancheZOOM from the site? So what do you think?
I like
that way.
it.
All right.
Now that we've had to practice with Matt Kirk and the inspection, it's a piece of cake.
Yep, we'll make it happen. We'll figure it out. We'll talk to the Piper Museum guys, and at the very least, I think what we could do is send a shot out of all the Comanches gathered on the ramp, because they're going to give us a section. It'll be 1 million yellow cubs probably, and some short wing pipers, and then us. And we can make a point of and I know that the person that restored Comanche serial number 1 is going to be there. And so what we could do is maybe, what do you think? Can we do an interview and shoot the serial number 1 Piper and just see if we can simulcast if the bandwidth's good enough? And I think it is there. We'll be able to do a live Zoom meeting from, that'll be a Saturday meeting. Is that right, Pete? Saturday, the 26th?
Saturday,
okay.
Saturday the 26th.
All right, we'll make it so.
Hey,
So,
CJ, that would be great, because I'm an hour and 10 minutes away and I can't go by the 26th because we're not going to be open. So it'd be great.
Oh man.
Great out. Yeah, it's very annoying that you're that close and I can't go.
Absolutely. And we will make sure that we have
CJ,
it. I
when's
just want
the
to
Farmers
credit Chris.
flying?
Hold on one second, Rob. I just want to say Chris Elger, for everybody who may not know Chris, flew a Comanche 180 that he had restored along with another really amazing person 1.5 times around the world. So for charity, for 2 awesome charities. So Chris, thanks for being part of us. Thanks for doing cool things.
Thank you.
Robert, go ahead.
I thought the Parlin fly-in was on the 26th. Did that get moved and I just missed it?
No, the Parlin fly-in is on the 19th. It's next weekend.
Okay,
Not
thank you.
this, but next.
weekend, and then Lock Haven is on the 20th.
Following weekend.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep. And Parlin fly-in, for all of you who are up in the northeastern part of the US, is cool because there's going to be a max performance takeoff and landing clinic there. And it's a cool field, and there's 3, wing safety instructors, Pete?
Right, yes.
Yep. And unfortunately, George Merriam, who was with us early, will be in pretty heavy duty antibiotics for the next 4 weeks. He just confirmed. So he was to be part of that. And we'll just look forward to having him back in action and keep bugging him and cheering him up.
The title of the wings thing is, can your aircraft really perform? And what they do is, I've done it before, is they take your POH with all the performance charts and stuff in it, and they take the current ambient condition, temperature, humidity, everything, winds, and they calculate how much runway it's going to take to get off the ground, how much it's going to take to clear a 50-foot barrier, and then reverse it. How long is it going to take you to stop based on those conditions? And it's a great experience. Yeah, they put markers on the side of the field so you can actually see if you really did get off in 347 feet or 455 feet, whatever it is.
Yeah. So for those of you who ever aspire to fly in and out of really short fields, try to make it to this one. And Pete, do you think we can do that as a ComancheZOOM exercise? Because it would be great for.
It might be possible. It might be possible. It is a wings program, so I would have to double check with the guys that are doing it. But
all right.
Yeah.
I'm putting that one on your shoulders, but I think it would be a great topic.
All right, I'll be there.
Well, part of the reason is I've got a bunch of people like, hey, we're looking for an airplane, and do you think it'll be able to fly in and out of a 2,000-foot strip with 150-foot obstacle on one end that's 400 feet off the runway, and another 50-foot obstacle 80 feet off the runway on the other side. And I'm like, maybe. In theory, yes, but so this would be great because I've actually had 4 inquiries in the last 3 weeks of that nature. So a couple of good pieces of information. First of all, as mentioned, Matt Kirk did the first remote consult. Many of you saw Will Carpenter's 4-part series on his unplanned landing in a bean field, fortunately harvested, his transport of his airplane to a non-Comanche shop that worked on Beechcraft, where it arrived on a trailer with the wings next to it and a bag of parts unlabeled. And they were told, hey, fix this airplane and put it back together. No problem, right? So, they did great work and they were really diligent. And they and Will all felt like, boy, it would be really great to have somebody who really knew the Comanche, especially the landing gear, take a look and see if we got it right. And so enter Matt Kirk, who bravely agreed to work with Will and the ComancheZOOM team to be able to do a remote virtual inspection. Matt quarterbacked 2 A&Ps at Modern Aviation around Will's airplane, where they crawled all around at Matt's direction with a camera, a flashlight, and a notepad. And they were able to do that remote inspection, and it was incredibly successful. That video belongs to Will and Matt. For those of you super interested, it's being made available to those who really want to look at it. And then we'll see if it ends up in the document library or not. Not our decision. If you would like to do this, there are a number of people who are signing up to be part of that program. And the reason that this is relevant to the need for our parts is this. They include people like Matt Kirk, who have not just supported and know how to fix our gear and source every part of it, but has created innovations like extra gear light systems so you can make sure that all of your gear is down. And the reason that that's so important is that if you think about how to take an innovation and make it available to other Comanche drivers or even all aircraft and be compliant with FAA regulations that are designed to, keep us safe and make sure that things are done in some kind of a decent, reasonable way, we need people who have mechanical engineering expertise. We need DERs, or designated engineering representatives, such as Hans Neubert, who has literally saved entire huge parts of our fleet from multiple ADs that shouldn't have been happening, but he has also engineered things that can help us fly more efficiently and more safely and faster. We always like faster. And so what we've got is a collection of people who have been emerging from our own Comanche community, such as DER Hans Neubert, who is unique. Like, actually, if you look at Hans's collection of FAA designated engineering representative certification, he's unique. Nobody else has his particular cool collection of capabilities. Josh Fenningson is another Comanche driver and DER who has a different set of capabilities. And John Brierton, who's the current president of the Piper Museum and a former Piper engineer for the Comanche B models, has yet another collection of certifications. And the reason that I wanted to tell you all about this is Hans can do, well, Hans, are you still with us? I know it's been kind of a long meeting. But Hans can do metallic and also, interestingly, non-metallic and all non-life limited parts. He has an unlimited ability to do that. So if you are interested in an innovation in that area, Hans is an FAA designated engineering representative, and he can certify to the FAA that an appropriate action or material or design is appropriate. And John Brierton, the Piper Museum, he can do things like engine accessories. So if you have an engine accessory modification that you want to make, or one that you'd like to be able to do, you can literally go and let us know, or contact him directly and say, I would like to hire you for a consult. And we will set it up and run it, record it. You'll have a copy of it. and just make sure everything goes really smoothly. And you just pay them their shop rate. We do ask that you, if you can, donate something, because just to sort of support the ComancheZOOM platform, which costs money, and support the whole initiatives and efforts of the Northeast Comanche Tribe. But at the moment, we're just here to try to make sure that type support happens. And so that is a new capability. It's just, it hasn't existed before. There are 3 DERs. There's a mechanical engineer whose shop is able to scan things to create drawings that the FAA will accept for STCs. In fact, their drawings are supporting several STCs right now. They include people who have gotten STCs themselves. I think there's a collection of 112 STCs, and the people on the list right now. And the list isn't even on the website. It's coming together now, but the capability is already there. PMA authority on certain things and the knowledge of how the PMA process works and what it means. Again, Josh Svenningson, who's got, I think, 80 field approvals, mostly for ragwing pipers, but and 6 STCs. And so that collection of people, somebody who's good at software, that's becoming increasingly important on a lot of things going to the FAA. So that collection of capabilities is what is going to allow us to continue to make parts, keep them available, keep STC approvals alive, or get them back out of loss. Like many of you want the Eagle cowl because you want to be able to fly faster and more fuel efficiently. Well, you can't get that anymore, but this group is working to see if we can make the Eagle cowl available again. And so that's a quick description of something that's crossing several areas, and it's the parts program, it's a consulting program, and it's the ability to take Comanche expertise and make it available to you or other people need it, using the ComancheZOOM platform, so that you don't have to pay somebody to fly out and get their hotel bills and all that time. You can just pay somebody their shop rate and have them look at your airplane. Any questions about that? Any thoughts, suggestions, ways to make it better, requests? Okay. Well, hopefully you're happy about that. The big thing is it's going to be able to make key parts available. So for example, Kristen Winter and Hans Newbert have been working for a while on the aileron nose rib, which was in short supply or unobtainium.
Robert's got his hand up.
Oh, go ahead.
CJ, this is Robert, and what I'm thinking of is all of the different areas that the Northeast group is focused on between group buys of various things, and then these STCs, and then the documents for all the POHs and everything. Do we have a central reference document that shows all the neat things that were involved? So when somebody, like an index, like all the group buys that you've put together, maybe you've got a group buy for a right aileron, and so I need to find, if I'm in it, I need to know that there's a group buy available for whatever, but there's also all those other things that you mentioned. It seems that this group is growing so large and our intellectual property has just blossomed out so much that we need a cross-reference point. So those that are interested, like all the engine work, like if I haven't started my engine for 10 years, what do I need to do? We've got the answer, or somebody's got the answer to that. What we don't have, and the missing link that you might consider, is a cross-reference of some sort to put all this stuff together.
Yep, like a table of content and index, absolutely. No argument. So there's a document called the This Is Who We Are document that is unpublished at the moment. And what I think we are committing to do is for the annual general meeting that we will be presenting that index. We have a lot of work to do then. Malcolm has been talking to Pete about, hey, can we get a special page for the group buy specials, so that not only are they on Facebook, where people sometimes can and can't find them because Facebook's not really a great way to organize information, But it would be great just to be able to go to the website and go, here, all the group buys, and the past group buys would be in the past group buy section, and the current group buys would be in the current group buy section. So yes, there is a tremendous amount of that kind of indexing and organizational work that is in progress right now. And to some extent, the vote will influence that because it protects the company enough that it makes it worth it to do that. Back at you. Good comment. I think that at this point, I'm just doing a time check. Looks like we're at about 9:20. I want to ask Bill Caniff two things. One is we have a bunch of stuff that we could talk about, but I want to talk about two really central projects. One is a group of lists that Bill Caniff, who's doing the Comanche Neighborhoods program, has been working with Pat Lee, who, by the way, is one of the key parts people. He's got flap tracks, in case you need flap tracks, to do. And then the other is some mapping capability that Les Thomas has been working on. And I think PJ Medella and Les, although this is not formal and not an announcement, may be joining forces because, but the reason I want to bring these up is the mapping, although we can have a website and lists, we also are aware of and looking at how people use technologies and how they use their cell phones and what they use to get information. So the mapping technology looks like it's just going to be the natural central place where we're all going to find everything. So Bill has been pioneering putting together key lists of maintenance shops, avionics shops, neighborhoods, and other things he will potentially talk to you about briefly because it is getting late. And then Les, with his mapping technology, is a natural place to be able to find all of those things in a visual way. However, the mapping technology is only going to be as good as the information we all put into it. And so the two projects are connected. As a result, when you all fill out your information in the membership form, some of that goes to support having the mapping technology make it much easier for everybody to find everybody else. You can also add shops that you like of any sort, whether it's good pizza near an airport or a great avionics shop or a fantastic A&P or your own business, because obviously we're going to be more likely to go to other Comanche owners because we know and trust each other, even if the business is unrelated to aviation. So Les, I did not warn you that I might be asking this, but do you happen to have a current sort of very quick snapshot of some of the mapping work you've been doing? And Bill, if you're still with us, do you want to do a very quick overview of the key lists that you're trying to put together? And then I'm going to suggest that we then continue this as it's been a long night for many. So Les, are you still with us? And if so, well, that makes that easy. If he's not here, he can't present the map. So I apologize to everybody who was in the meeting for the first hour and a half, and he is not. But what he's done in short is he's geocoded 63,000 airports worldwide. And for those members for whom we have addresses, those are also geocoded. And there's, oh gosh, a very large number of Comanche aviators that are in that map. And he's been working on getting it ready for prime time, which means getting the input of information like businesses and avionics shops in. And then if we still have Bill Caniff, yep, we do. Bill, are you able to just quickly describe some of the lists that you're putting together?
Okay. I've talked to many people about this, and one of the things that they really would like to have is a list of Comanche-oriented maintenance people for them. Okay, for two reasons. One, they may not be too happy with what they have right now. And the second, if you're flying around the country and you end up out in the desert of Arizona you know, it would be good to know who would be a good Comanche person there. Okay. However, the basic thing with this is that the members have really got to put the information in as to who they think is appropriate. And I have some ideas as to how to develop that list for the maintenance, for the avionics, and for painting. The other thing we're working on, and we're about to start with the second area, is the Comanche Neighborhood. And where that has gotten legs, it has been well received with the people who attended the first one, going after Pat Lee and saying, hey, when are we going to have the next one? And we're currently working on the people in Nebraska, and we're sending out the first notice tomorrow to about 10 people to say, hey, George Richmond is planning on having a Comanche gathering. And then we're trying to work with the people of the Northwest to do the same thing. And then to also have this as a place where you can get better acquainted with the people, with your neighbors, and also have the support when you need it for the various things. If for nothing else, somebody to hold a wrench for you, or to fly you someplace where you need to get parts. But all this is putting together all of the things that people really are looking for. And it also shows how we think about the Comanche world. Okay. I'm very interested in the Comanche Neighborhood gathering thing. And I hope, as I've said, we have one that's initializing tomorrow, and I think we have 2 more that are in the offing to get started. And once the people kind of get some reading on this thing, oh yeah, we'd like to have that. And I can only speak from my own past experience with having a Comanche neighborhood thing in Amityville, Long Island. It started out with 5 people, and within 6 months, we had 20 people coming from, Amityville is on Long Island, coming from Connecticut, from New Jersey, and within a year, we had anywhere from 40 to 60 people coming for a cookout. And all these people became well acquainted and almost lifetime friendships out of it. And this is really what the Comanche world is all about. Thank you.
Bill, thank you for your efforts, and thank you for initiating putting these lists together. They are going to be so helpful. So if you've got a list, there's a Northeast feedback form, or if you've got a person you'd like to add, there's a couple of things. You can just fill out an application, only instead of putting yourself in, the application form, make sure that you're not surprising somebody, but you can fill in an application form for somebody else as long as you've got their permission. And then here's a Northeast feedback form, and feel free to just send us suggestions, and we look for those and act on them. At this point, I am inclined to, nope, and Pete's bringing those up, super.
Feedback on the lower part here, membership up here on that form links page.
Pete?
So what Pete's done is gone to northeastcomanche.org, and then under the big blue bar, on the under the big blue bar on the right hand end of a bunch of links, it says any form links. When he clicked on that, it brought him to this page that he's showing right now. And on the top left is the membership application, and 3 down is a feedback form.
There's also the
And,
tribe
those
officer
feedback
election
forms.
application form. If you want to be a tribe officer,
Yes,
right there,
please.
or volunteer. If
You want to click on that and
volunteer to
show
be a
people?
tribe officer.
Pete,
Yeah.
is that application form the same thing as a nomination form?
It is, yep.
Okay, I think we should make that point rather clear.
Yeah, this is it. And it just basic information, and then 3 questions. What's your vision for the Northeast Tribe? What experiences do you bring to desire to the tribe office? And what do you see as the role of the tribe rep? This is kind of old hat. It may not be applicable anymore, but the role of the tribe rep on the ICS Board of Directors. That's the one thing that we do have over the ICS. We have a tribe rep that sits on the board.
Pete, I'd like to add one thought there, though. We talked about this, is that maybe put an opportunity there for people to volunteer to be part of this, a support group that
Yep.
they, okay? As needed, they're ready to jump in and help.
Yeah, down here at the bottom, if you are not elected, would you consider serving as a Northeast Tribe Advisory Council?
Well, no, I mean, I think I concur with Bill, and this is an email that I had sent you earlier.
Yep.
Could we just open up something saying, I want to do this? And so I want to volunteer to do this, because this is the lifeblood of what we are and what
Well, that would be the
we do.
feedback form.
Nope, I agree with, we'll take this offline, but
Yeah.
But I think what Bill's asking is, could you add a whole field saying, I want to volunteer, either put me on whatever committee or effort you want, or I would like to get involved with doing this thing, and then we can use that to form a group around them.
Yep.
I'd like to add one point that.
All right.
Anybody who wants to become an officer, that is a good way to learn what the responsibilities and aggravations are for becoming an officer.
You mean getting sued?
Well,
okay.
Let's hope.
Let's not go there.
Okay, well,
yeah.
When the Comanche geezers start working, we'll straighten out that.
I am looking forward to the Comanche geezers. That is going to be quite the group. So, well, this is an open invitation. Everybody, we're just going to go ahead and wrap up. Feel free to just unmute and start talking. We never did finish saying to everybody who we are, where we were, and what we fly. I want to thank you all for being here through this. And it's just amazing what's happened in the last year. I just want to say, keep flying. Keep finding each other now that this crazy thing is starting to calm down a little bit. We really hope everybody that's in Canada, that things calm down and that you all get through safely and well, and that we can all start visiting each other easily back across the border soon, and coming to Oshkosh and Lock Haven and going up there and seeing your beautiful cities and visiting our friends.
At this point, I'm going to stop the recording so I can go back and get it fixed up. The meeting will continue. CJ is going to be in charge, so I will be saying good night.
Good night, Peter.
Pete, thank you as
everybody.
always. Yep. And Pete's off to go spend more time recording and uploading. So thank you so much, Pete.
Good night.
Pat Donovan just